So first of all, good morning, everybody. Once again, this is Paul Azikar. Thank you, Tim. And today's focus is, we've had kind of a series of these things, and we're going to start over again next week. And the whole idea is we're just kind of building up, kind of this, starting with the 2D and moving into kind of the traditional based Sage Timberline estimating. We talked about last week how Timberline estimating is leveraging from BIM technology. And then the purpose of this, we wanted to kind of make this our final one, is this is the new Timberline Enterprise or Sage Enterprise Estimating, full SQL Server based. And then we want to kind of talk about, first of all, what's here, kind of what's coming, and where we're going type of concept today. So it's almost kind of a futures. And since we have what I want to try to do is kind of focus on. Maybe some folks have a little bit of background on Sage Timberline, and so we'll kind of relate to, talking about this parity mission of moving the apps into this whole SQL-based solution. So that's today's focus. Folks can everybody hear me all right? Is that a yes or a no?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's good. So anyway, just a couple slides here to get through to kind of give you a little bit of a landscape of where I'm going. So we look at the Timberline estimating here. A little bit about Alliance Solutions. Alliance Solutions has over 4,000 customers. A lot of the products that we focus on is you'll see the Sage 300 construction and real estate. There's Sage 100. Sage 300 formerly was the Timberline accounting. Sage 100 is the master builder. Sage Estimating is the former name of that was Timberline Estimating, and then we have an HR system, and then some of the other supporting applications that we dovetail with that kind of feed off of estimating are products like On-Screen Takeoff and PlanSwift. There's a few other applications I didn't list in this PowerPoint, but we're also hot and heavy into a lot of what we call our BIM solution, which is the 3D, and being able to connect up with likes of Autodesk QTO, Innovia, a product called dProfiler, and soon to be Assemble. And these are all applications that live in that BIM 3D takeoff world. So anyway, those are some of the products that Alliance supports, implements, and distributes. Some of the locations that we have, where we've got an office in Manhattan Beach or in the California region, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, all the way through into the Caribbean islands. So we carry a broad range of products, and my forte out of all those products is the estimating application and also all the feeder applications that go along with it. Today's topics, kind of like I said already, it's kind of an overview of what's available today, enterprise estimating, our new SQL-based, kind of what's planned, and on the list there on the chopping block for 2013, and then finally kind of where we're going. And for folks that don't know much about the Sage Timberline estimating, basically what we've done is we've been developing estimating software for better than 30 years, and this is what we call our next generation. We've many years ago went from DOS to the Windows platform, and then the Windows platform now at this point has another generation to it, and that's this SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server back engine. Building it in a lot more flexible way, so that's kind of a little bit of background, and so some of the things that you're going to see today, and again, if you've never seen the application, understand, and I'm going to walk you through kind of the basics of the program. Happy to dive in later to maybe another webinar or a separate go-to-meeting for that company, but essentially what they've done is that with this enterprise estimating, along with just, it's not just a SQL engine. What they've done is they've added a lot more new features, a new UI uplift, gone to a kind of a ribbons look and feel. We built in a migration tool that allows you to take existing databases from the Sage Timberline pervasive SQL format and convert it into a SQL. We got the ability to actually, the whole concept of this is as we're migrating people to this new platform, if it's what the company needs to do or wants to do, is we've developed it so you actually can run both applications. kind of the more legacy app, the pervasive, along with the SQL, and so that you can kind of learn more about it if you're not quite ready to transfer over to the full enterprise. So, on my box, I actually have both applications, and along with that, what we're doing with this platform is we're kind of in a mode what we call full parity, where we're bringing, there's several roads of the development efforts. One is bringing that what people are currently used to seeing in our pervasive SQL traditional base into this new generation product. The other thing that we've done is we've also opened up our technology with a new API, and that allows us to incorporate with the software developers kit. And basically what that does is it opens up kind of the floodgates of people being able to develop their own custom interfaces, maybe other third-party vendors, additional 2D, 3D, a company that wants to develop their own type of interface that does X, Y, and Z. It opens that up for people to be able to write those kind of interfaces, and so instead of kind of being more closed-minded. Today some of the main features, as I roll through this, we're probably 80–90% parity as it relates to the traditional based application. Some of the main things that we've incorporated, I'm going to touch on today, is that they've added a lot of, we've got the undo feature in there. We can export our spreadsheet to Excel. What we've also done is we've created this management console, which kind of pulls all that stuff that maybe an IT person would be doing and kind of maintaining the data and working from kind of the back end side of things. And we've pulled all that into what we call a management console, and I'm going to show you a little bit about that too. And then the install is we've gone to a much lighter install concept where you can send a link. You download the link. You can do the install, and so it's made it a lot cleaner than having to wait for that CD. So anyway, I'll jump into some of the new features there. Kind of what's on the chopping block for this year. Again, the whole concept is, mission one is develop that kind of full parity concept of what's in the traditional base pervasive SQL, and along the way, how can we enhance this based on things that we've never had in that older application. So we're doing that, and along the way, what we're trying to do is give the user a very good engine, a clean UI, and then be able to open up a lot of these other third-party vendors that are going to be driving our spreadsheet. Some of the applications, there's a tool that allows you to do a lot of kind of fast database manipulations. That database editor is currently in our 9.8 platform on pervasive. You're going to see that come in SQL this year. That allows you to make a lot of database changes rapidly, be able to import stuff from Excel in terms of descriptions and unit prices, be able to set up job costs and all kinds of things that are much easier. A lot of the BIM integration is being developed right now that'll be connecting to this new version. Applications like the QTO, Innovi, dProfile, and Assemble are all building their, utilizing that API that I was just mentioning. There's a product called EOS Navigator. I have a couple PowerPoint slides to show you what that looks like. For those that know, EOS Explorer, which is a data mining tool that allows you to go find past projects, be able to bring those in and maybe use those as a starting point. That application is going through a whole new facelift called Navigator, and that Navigator application will be also connecting with this enterprise-wide estimating tool. So anyway, so what I want to try to do is kind of talk about, first of all, what we have today and kind of what's coming type of thing, and then kind of leave the future for the tail end. So I'm going to close out of the PowerPoint for a moment and get into, minimize that. So at this point, before I get into the core application, I've got a couple applications turned on here. One is the management console, and the other is the core estimating. And instead of just dumping right into the core estimating, I want to be able to just to understand what we've tried to do is we move this to this next generation is really look at, it's truly an enterprise app. And the whole concept with that is, hey, there's a lot of things that a lot of our medium to large scale customers are looking for. They want to be able to maintain, edit, be able to apply security, users, roles, groups, be able to migrate data, be able to have a place where we can publish out reports, custom reports, and that all that stuff really needs to live kind of behind the walls of this core application. So if we come back in here to the management console, this is what the intent of this application does. And if I maximize that, you'll see here up at the very top, and again, this isn't for your everyday user. This is really more for your IT, database guru, that sort of folk that are really working, kind of behind the scenes. And so what we've done is taken a lot of that stuff and put it into this management console, so someone that's a normal user doesn't have to worry about all this stuff, and the IT person doesn't have to go into the core estimating. And so the whole idea with this is an example of all the estimates that are sitting out there. An example, so if you look up here are the kind of main areas that this management console is kind of pulled out of the core. And understand there's some stuff that we've done before in the traditional one, but we also have added a lot of other functionality that we've never had in the pervasive SQL 9.7, 9.8. So if you look here on estimates, here's an example, and this is one of the things that SQL really lends itself very nicely. If I have a whole pile of these estimates in here, as I open up a file, you'll see that it takes me into all the kind of top fields, and and again, it's all the estimates and data are going into one data engine, and that's the big thing that SQL does for us. Not only that, but also from a performance standpoint, being able to whip through and be able to find things quickly, processing information a lot faster, and so it gives us that horsepower. And by having everything housed in one database, the SQL database, now it gives people all kinds of room for custom reporting and being able to do a lot of things where our previous version was more of, I would say, kind of a flat file. Every time you create an estimate, it kind of created its own database and makes it much harder for IT departments, custom developers to be able to try to get into that data and run estimates across the board and that sort of thing. So what you're seeing here is, I'm in one estimate, but I can also go up to this folder and say show all estimates in the grid, and maybe here's some fields that are inside that cover sheet. I can come in here and I can drag something over here and group by area. I can furthermore come in here and say let's do this by estimator. So now I've got something that and this is what's so nice about SQL and being in that one database is I can work with all those and work with the data very easily. Some of the other things that we've done, if I roll over, I can copy estimate new. I can set up my own, hierarchy folder, what they call branch and estimates, to organize my files. But this is a place where we can, easily see this information. If I roll kind of to the right here, this address book is tied in with our Timberline accounting platform, and that address book stores our contacts, and it's kind of the piece that connects us to the accounting for us to drive budgets. Now, a lot of our larger scale customers may not have the Timberline accounting, but they utilize our estimating. And so what we've done with this version here is, if I go into the options here, you'll see that I can either enable the integration or disable the integration. If I disable it, a lot of our users in the past would open that up and they'd see a little warning or error message that the address book it can't find it because you don't have the accounting. And so we've disabled that, and that's just handled by simply clicking on the options and disable or enable. The report manager, instead of in the pervasive application, you actually, inside of estimating, go under reports and go to report manager, and then what it does is it launches this application, and then it opens up this dashboard, and and then you click on your report. What we've done is we've taken all that part of it and allow you to come in here and populate and put your reports in a dashboard behind the scenes. And so that way, when I'm in estimating, and I go to my drop-downs and reports, it just looks like some of the reports that came with the core program. So much cleaner UI in that regards. The data migration here is intended to be, hey, I've got an existing pervasive database. It's time for me to make the switch. I want to go to the enterprise-wide SQL version. I come in here and select, and now I can just browse and select my database and run a migrate, and it migrates that database into and converts all those pervasive files into a one big SQL database that that I don't have to rebuild things. So the security tab. If I open up the security tab, we've moved into this whole, in the past, if you double-click on the estimating extended like icon and you go in there, other than maybe putting a password on the estimate and a password on the database and serializing the data, in terms of what a person can or can't do, what we've done is we've added all this role-based security. So if you look here, we've gone into the security tab, users, roles, the estimate level. So not only do we have users out here, which you'd see a log of all the users, and then if I was to go in here and say, well, I want to go to the role, and if you notice right now the admin can do all these functions. If I click on estimator, they can only do those functions. And so this allows you to control what they can and can't do. Above and beyond that, we also have estimate security that we've put in here. And today it's either a view, you either view it or you can get in full blown, or if you don't have those rights, what's really nice about this is that all this is tied into your Active Directory. So when you log in the morning, based on your Windows login, that all that security can be based on that. And so what's really nice is, let's say I'm working on a project, but Bob's not. He's not helping me on it. And so we can set up those rights and say you're not even part of that project. So Bob doesn't even see that estimate as one to choose from. So it's, again, that's another advantage of having this back-end engine being SQL. It's all that stuff lives in there, and we can define parameters and permissions and security on it. So, and then this is just a standard database that if you bought one, you can bring one in. So that's kind of enough about the management console. As I get into the core estimating application, you'll notice that we've moved into this kind of new UI, gone to a ribbons look and feel. You'll notice we've kind of broken things out into major blocks here. One of the things that we want to be sensitive as well, not only along the way of updating this UI, we also wanted to make sure that as we updated the UI, we have a lot of our customers out there that are used to using it based on the certain commands that are available in the drop downs that they're used to seeing. So along with updating things and making it more of what it should be today, a more modern look, if I go in here and click on options, I can open up options, and you can see over here that if I click on this classic menu bar controls, it gives you the SQL engine, but based on the traditional commands that you're used to seeing back in the 9798 pervasive SQL. The other thing that we've also added is a command here that says, hey, when you're exporting this information, if you want to do some additional analysis and we're printing out a report, if I go here to say print spreadsheet, there's an export command. Well, when we export, we can export that as an Excel file. Well, we've been able to do that in 97 and 98 for quite some time. But what this does today is you export that out, and it'll incorporate and include the formulas along with that. So it makes it real nice. It gives you the ability to do some additional editing, but not have to rebuild those formulas. So some folks need some additional analysis outside, and we'll publish that. And so it gives you a lot more flexibility there. From the concept of the application, it's still the same as what we had for a number of years. It's a database spreadsheet concept. If I open up, if you notice here, if you look, kind of go through here, these are the things that I need to do in an estimate. So if you look here, if I go to new estimate, right now I'm in an estimate. If I want to go back to the cover page, if you just look at these blocks, kind of follows the logical commands. So if I wanted to go in to the cover page for that particular file, you'll notice all these cover page fields have been completely updated and brand new, and a much cleaner look. We can roll things up if you don't want to see it. If I want to create a new estimate, I can just go in here and go File, New Estimate, give it a name. I can, if I wanted to browse to another branch, I can. Hit OK. Opens up the cover sheet. And you'll notice now what we've done is we've gone to this whole tab look and feel. So if we have multiple estimates open, all I have to do is click on that tab. I can obviously close it out if I want, but I can toggle easily between two estimates by just using this tab feel, look and feel. From the concept of, if you notice in here, hey, I want to open up the database and I want to be able to do a takeoff, I can open up the list here and you'll see it, same kind of concept, database spreadsheet. The beauty of this though is, I can sure come in here and, find something and bring that into the spreadsheet and it starts populating. If I expand all here, you'll see though that one of the major differences here is I just hit my page down and keep it depressed and it just whips through that sheet. The search criteria, if I said, hey, I'm looking for a, marker, anything that's a marker board, it's that fast by just hitting the enter. And if I wanted to choose these two items, throw it into the spreadsheet, off I roll. Concept is similar. If I want to come in here and enter that I got 2 of these and 56 of those, and I want to come in here and change a price, that information is very similar. I still have the notes that I can do. I can also attach a file, which is really nice. If there's a particular file you want to attach to that item, could be a picture, could be a Word document. I have that capability. If I come in here to notes, I can come in here and as I do notes, you'll notice now we can bold, italicize, go with different formats here to really dress up eventually the report. And the little note just sits over there. So that then in itself is an improvement there. The other thing that we've done is that as I'm using this estimate, I might come over here and decide to change a description, want to come over here and change a unit price. Maybe I want to change this one here, whatever I'm doing. In the past, if you did that, we're a disk-based application, but now we've incorporated the ability to come in here and undo and redo. So if I hit undo, it's progressive undo, not just one undo, or I can come back and say redo. Either way, it remembers that, so I have that capability. The other things that we've done from kind of dressing up and making things more efficient is we can come over here and I can make this screen bigger and just kind of set that zoom instead of going to view and zoom in every time I want to zoom in. I can just set that zoom and where I want it to be. The other thing that we've done too is if I go into view here, which is just one of these tabs, I have the ability to have what they call flyouts. So if I come in here and I'm working on my spreadsheet, I can just hover here, and instead of either going to a separate page, I can just hover over it, and instead of it burning up a bunch of landscaping on the spreadsheet, I can click on it and hover over that, and it gives me all the information. So, I can open up the detail window if I want to, see some additional things. They're just flyouts that I can dock there, and again, it doesn't burn up a bunch of space. If I go back to the home button here and click on assembly, and if I open that up, you'll notice here that if I come in here and answer questions, whatever I'm doing here, as I fill out that interview, one of the other things that we've done is some of the folks here, you have the ability to customize and put your own little notes to this. If I go right mouse key and say edit variable, you'll notice now it's unlimited page of notes, not just 5 rows of data and very limited there. And now it's wide open. And that's another advantage of using the SQL back engine. There's really no limit, where the Pervasive really did limit us in lots of ways. So as I come down here and fill out the information, maybe I want to take off the rebar. And again, these assemblies can be built however you want. As I come in here, count my piece, maybe we got 200 feet, whatever. Or 700, we go 4 bars. And if I hit plus here, it drives all the items. The other thing we can do is we can attach pictures to this so I can show people what that looks like, and maybe there's some additional information that helps visually. So that becomes real handy to have. So we can minimize that so it just stays over there on the side. When I hit OK, it just drives everything to the spreadsheet. And you'll notice here I can just toggle between two estimates back and forth. I was in assembling mode, which allows me, and I could go back to the estimate. Again, it just is a lot easier to manipulate and much more flexible in that regards. You know, as we roll through here, you know, and I work with this. Some of the other things that we've done, you know, so those are kind of the basics. The other thing that we've done too is people that are used to using the application. You've got the ability to come here kind of like you would in Excel and say, you know, I really want to call that just sub. Maybe I want to come over here and move the sub name over there. You know, maybe I want to hide this column and hide that column. Well, instead of having to be in a mode where you're constantly having to hide things and manipulate the spreadsheet, and we give you a ton of columns, there's a command here called layout. We've had spreadsheet layout for a long time. What's nice about this is we've been able to move into a mode where you have the ability to have your own layouts that are specific to you and your username when you log in. And then there's also shared layouts. Shared layouts would be like maybe the chief estimator, maybe the owner of the company wants to see certain number of views or reports. Well, those would be the shared layouts, the company-wide ones that only the admin can change. But these my layouts are your personal layouts. And what's kind of cool is I can go in here and say, you know, this is the estimating webinar view, whatever. I can use it for new estimates. When I hit OK, it just drops it in as one I can use. And all I physically do is I double-click, and that gives me that view. The beauty of the way we've organized the spreadsheet layout is that I can go in here and say create shared if I have that security and rights, and it publishes out to shared, so now it makes it available to all the users that have access to estimating. So it's much more cleaned up than it was. A couple things that along the way of improving the UI, improving the performance, you know, and all that. The other thing that we've also done, if I close out these estimates, we've gone to if you look under interface here, we've gone to the OST integration is also complete. And what the OST integration does is it allows you to work with if I'm over here in on-screen takeoff, and I've done a quantity takeoff, and I've got all this information here, it's the ability to be able to map the Timberline database to this information. And as you do that, it becomes part of the database and it remembers it that way. So this integrator is now, instead of going to a separate application in between estimating and on-screen takeoff, for example, if I come back to this, it's now built within the application. I don't leave it at all. And now all I do is, what you're seeing here is a list of projects. If I go back to OST, you'll see here's the list of bids. And so if I'm back over here, I can open this up and say, here's that project. And I go right mouse key and say, take off the new estimate. And I might say this is Office 789, 1, whatever. Hit OK. And it just goes off, and it's connected to the database, and it drives that spreadsheet. And if I hit close here, now I didn't have to go to the database. It drove all that information for me right down to my assemblies, you know, and renaming them based on my condition. But what's really nice is it's all part of our application housed within one, and you know, all we're doing is we're connecting. And just so you understand, up here is you know, as an example, is a database of all these conditions that could be used in on-screen takeoff here. And what we're doing is we're taking those conditions and we're assigning them either an item or an assembly out of our database. And once we've done that, here are the attributes that might be in on-screen takeoff. Here's a list of questions that might be in that assembly. And we're just mapping that information. So if you look here, if I come down to, let's say, a wall type, you'll see that a lot of this stuff is programmed in to drive that information. So we're just teaching OST here, this application, to work with timberline estimating. And as we do that, it's like I said, it's burned into the database, allowing me to drive a spreadsheet that, and I guess, this is probably a great segue into kind of where we're going. So if you look here, this is kind of the beginning throws, and so today, as you look at kind of the missions at hand at corporate, we have number one, like I mentioned earlier, is kind of that full parity, and number two is, well, as we're doing full parity, how can we enhance it better, and along the way add new features, of course, too. The other mission that we have at hand is really trying to look at ways. It's like the API. If we talked about that, if I go back to PowerPoint, and you see, go down a couple slides here. That what you're seeing today is really kind of that place where that gives us that landing place where we're opening up the technology with that API I mentioned that we have out there. So now all of a sudden you've got this spreadsheet. OST integration is an example of kind of where we're going, where we're building this functionality, so that there's a lot of tools out there that will help us drive that spreadsheet outside the walls of the core estimating. And so if you look at the API that has been put in place here, as I hover over this, now all of a sudden what you're looking at is the traditional based estimating, or the SQL based estimating, that now allows us to start connecting with third-party vendors like OST. PlanSwift is working on theirs. You've got these folks that are doing the BIM integration that are building that, the Navigator, and I think the important thing to understand on this kind of road too is we're opening up that technology, and by opening the technology, and having that API, really opens the floodgates for also customers, other third-party developers, above and beyond third-party vendors that create software like OnCenter, to really build interfaces to us and be able to improve that experience for the customer. I mentioned the Navigator as an example. If I back out of this for a second, I've got a PowerPoint on just a couple slides what that looks like. So along with this year, with all that BIM technology and the 2D stuff and the ability to write custom interfaces, we've gone to this. If you look here, this is the EOS Navigator, and the EOS Navigator is a data mining tool that'll be plugged into our estimating. And if you look here, you can go to and it's gone to this whole widgets concept where you can drop in pieces of information and then be able to, of course, go into the core estimating after you found what you're looking for. But if you look here, you can group all these in this example by state. And, here's your list of estimates based on what you've highlighted. If I come in here, you can see if I want to look at it by active, awarded, or lost, just different looks, if you will, to find those estimates and be able to run analysis and get that key information quickly. If you look here, this is that whole widget concept where you can drop in pieces of information into what we call a user-concentric dashboard. There's some information about a project that was found. Here's a page that allows someone to fill in based on having all those estimates sitting out there on the server or servers, and you can go in and fill information in based on criteria, and it'll pull in all the kind of top projects that fit that criteria. And they've got some key metrics here, data metrics. If you look here, they've gone to this whole ability to code things within an estimate, based on, hey, there might be a mixed-use core and shell, and in that mixed-use core and shell, there might be, instead of just finding all parking structures, this would find all parking structures that might be buried in with a mixed use, might be buried in with a hotel or hospital, because it's gone to this whole concept of project type and component type. So the project type might be a mixed use, and as you're building up your estimate, you're coding that timberline estimate in a way that it might have an area for parking, an area for the retail, an area for the condominiums. And so within that same estimate file by being able to organize things by a project type and a component type. You can dive in and pull out those parking garages that might be part of an estimate that has a lot of other locations to it. So it's got a lot deeper, new UI, and this is an example of a third-party application that's going to be converging this year, probably middle of the year. If I go back to the PowerPoint here and go into kind of where we're going, so what you see right there is a lot of this stuff can change, but you know, I talk about the different roads of development efforts that are being made. You know, we've got the full parity, we've got the open up the technology, which I've been talking a fair amount about. The third road here is really at this point, you know, continuing to find different ways. It's a concept of what we call stage construction integration or anywhere, and we're currently doing some of this on the accounting side, and we're going to be migrating that to estimating. And if you look, you know, here are some things that we're planning on, kind of what you're going to see maybe in the next 12 to 24 months. Along the way, this piece here is kind of that third road of development effort, and what that's doing is the concept is separating the user interface from the database engine. So take, for example, you know, a lot of you may have heard of like a cloud concept. Well, the data can live out on the cloud, and the UI now can live in lots of other places above and beyond working with 2D, 3D platforms of the likes of EOS Navigator. You might, you know, we've had customers come in and talk about, hey, we want to use an iPad. Hey, maybe we want to use an Apple computer over a browser and be able to fill in some stuff and be able to drive an estimate or be able to retrieve some key information out of the top projects that are schools and things like that. And so that's a third kind of mission that we're working towards. So some of the other things as you notice here that are kind of on the list is, you know, being to have ability to have multiple users in the same estimate file at once. There's a feature called model estimating. Model estimating is inside that core program is a database spreadsheet, and there's ways to pull an item. There's ways to drive an assembly, which might be a wall. A model would be an example of how big, how tall, how many stories that might be in an office complex, and it drives the supporting assemblies and items. And part of the reason this hasn't seen itself come into that SQL platform or the enterprise platform is it's for the fact that we haven't quite figured out kind of, you know, what we want to do with that. We really feel like that questionnaire should live on an iPad or live on being able to be available on a browser and things like that. So that's some of the stuff that you're starting to kind of see there. We currently have an ability to do custom reports, and the custom reports are currently accessed. They're moving into also being able for SQL Server reports. Above and beyond that, we've got this proposal generator that's kind of on the chopping block to be able to create, maybe instead of someone that doesn't know Crystal but they want to create their own report, makes it a little easier to pull that off. Alternates, and then of course this estimating security phase 2, if I come back to that, just kind of finish up with it, is if I'm over here in that security command, if you notice there's a lot of landscape down here. And today it's a view edit. You know, I can either get in or view it, or I can't get in at all. And some of the things we're looking at adding down here in that security are the likes of, hey, maybe you can do a takeoff, drive a Timberline spreadsheet, but we don't want you changing the numbers on the spreadsheet. So kind of the concept here is this gives us the ability to have more kind of drop-down, deeper role-based security within an estimate. So, you know, today that kind of, you know, again, I kind of come back to our mission at hand today was really to focus on, you know, kind of, you know, what's available today. We touched on that, kind of what's planned on coming in 2013, and then finally kind of where we're going. So it's about 11:45.